following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd-Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds-International. With the hyphen.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys role-playing system from Fantasy Flight Games. A show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both a player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me, as always, is my brother from another mother, Mr. Christopher Holmes. How you doing, homie?
I am getting over a cold, kind of feeling like crap still a little bit, but I feel 100% better. I do have a pretty cheesy gamer story, touchy-feely gamer story to tell you about after I introduce our Maple American friend, Stefan Dragonspawn. Welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, thank you. And does it involve an air fryer?
No air fryer stories this week, everybody. Okay. But what it does involve is my Friday night D&D group. We've been playing 5th edition. We have 2 kids, 2 boys, Dean and Nathan. They're about 9-10 years old, that they've been playing for a couple of years with us now. And with, Kyle, he's running it. This is our high-level, 18th level D&D campaign. Okay? So this is one of the greatest moments that I've had in my gamer history, just because it's a throwback moment for me. And I wish everybody can have a moment like this. So we kill Orcus. Okay? Yeah. The epitome of evil, chaotic evil, right? And
Chris?
then after killing the evil, yeah.
Pause. I think we lost Tony for a bit.
He's not speaking? Is he back right now?
No, it just seems like he's left the chat.
Well, that son of a bitch. Let's start over. Or not. Or do we wait? Are you back, Tony? Do we have to re-record?
I'm back. What the hell just happened?
I don't know. You're back. Okay, so anyways, we don't have to re-record all that. Anyways, so basically, it's my Friday night gamer group. We're playing a high-level campaign, 18th, 19th level. And we kill Orcus, like the epitome of evil, chaotic evil incarnate, right? And then we roll loot, because it's what you do. It's kind of a throwback D&D session, right? And lo and behold, we roll Rod of Lordly Might. And the 2 boys cheer. They go, yay! And we're like, do you even know what that is? They're like, no! So I end up opening up the DMG, pass the book across to them. Everybody's laughing. These 2 boys, their eyes get like so big, reading the damn item, because it's a legendary item, right? And they're like, This is so cool. And I don't know. In that moment, I was 13. I became 13, 14 years old again. Because they just shared a moment that I hadn't shared in like 30 years, over 30 years. And
seeing it through their eyes.
And I love playing this campaign right now. So, hats off to you guys. Cheers to them. Cheers to you 2. And cheers to everybody listening. Because I wish everybody can have moments like this. And I wish you all the greatest gamer moments ever. So yeah, it's touchy-feely, kind of whatever. But I wanted to share. I had to share.
Yeah, no, I remember some of my first items, or either myself or one of my fellow players. Rod of Lordly Might. Okay, does this and this. It can be an axe. It can be a sword. It can be a mace. It can be a ladder.
Yeah, it can be an immovable rod. I mean, just all of these things. And these 2 were just eating it up. I loved it.
Nice.
That's great.
Anyways, that was my story. So moving on.
That's a great story, Chris. Thank you.
All right. Stefan, newsman.
Yes, we have a few little bits of news. About a week ago, we had the announcement. The book called Worlds of Android
Fluffy goodness.
But yeah, just like the Shadow of the Beanstalk book, it is good quality, high quality book. Mm-hmm. Awesome art again, very evocative, and a few long pullouts that show what an arcology can look like with a bit of a cutaway views, as well as Luna base, Heinlein. What
it's
looks
$20
like underground.
It's $19.95 out there.
That's it. So not bad. You get a PDF, and it also, when you buy the PDF, it includes the pullouts as 2 separate PDFs. Mm-hmm. So, no, it's really cool. I read that book before Shadow of the Beanstalk came out, and it got me inspired, and I got a lot of information from the book, like all kinds of different bioroids and clones. Like, okay, this is the Henry model, this is the
cool.
Eve model. So, and what kind of purposes they fulfill. It's like, oh, nice. And of course, some weapon details, and one thing they don't cover, they cover that the core Shadow of the Beanstalk book doesn't cover is Mars. There's a lot more detail on the Mars colony in that book.
Oh, that's cool.
And in the rule book. So, yeah, if you're interested, go and get it, and you can put on your tablet and read it anywhere. And another little bit of news is that now the Finding Narrative Podcast is also on Twitter. You can find us at FTN_Genesis.
Which would basically be, you can find stuff in there. Like, you can find Tony on Facebook.
Yeah.
We didn't tweet. Tony and I didn't tweet before Stefan came on. So we've increased our social media platforms, man.
Yeah, by another 33%.
Yep.
So apologies, guys. We've got a lot of thunderstorms moving through my area right now, so it looks like my internet is patchy at best. So if you lose me, just forgive us. Yes, forgive us.
We did already.
For listener feedback, we got an email from Matt G. Mm-hmm. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you again for your help with my Goliath guy for Terranoth. So I have 2 things to discuss or to ask for your opinions on. The first one is for Chris and I guess for Tony, seeing as how far back it goes. I have been wanting to send this ever since your first Advantageous Threat section featuring Cherry Blowpop. I looked but could not remember where it was. I do recall that Chris had the image disguise device start to flicker, and I would have had the despair sent so that Cherry Blowpop, I think spent, so that when Cherry Blowpop enters the VIP area, she is disguising herself as the person she is disguising herself as is ushered in by guards through a secret door, which would lead to a very interesting social combat and maybe even an actual combat. Well, that's, I'd like to cover on that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Problem is, you weren't there. You couldn't do that to me, so haha. Oh, wait. And that's the thing, that's the great thing about this game is everybody, when you're sitting at the table, there's 6 different ways to spend a despair when you got 6 different people sitting. So
it's kind of like the guy rolled a despair in the Captain Marvel movie, right?
Right.
When he kind of made himself look like that old lady, and then she kind of looks at her. Nope, I just saw you. Wham! There you go.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yep.
Not to spoil the movie, but if you haven't seen it, you should have already, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a great film. All right, so on to number 2. So now my second session as a GM for Terranoth. My first was running a few people through the adventure that FFG put out. So something interesting came up. A mage wanted to first try and transmute the liquid in a bandit's eye to something highly flammable. I told him no on that because on that because I couldn't find where something like that would fit under. I thought maybe utility, but that wouldn't be right. He then went on to his second idea of conjuring lead into a bandit's eye, or sorry, throat. No. And thought about it. Jeez, I'm sorry, I'm horrible at reading today. And said, sure, why not? But the difficulty will not only increase, but it will be auto-upgraded. So, with 2 purple, a red, and 2 blacks, he managed to conjure lead into the bandit's throat. I was just wondering what your thoughts about these creative uses of magic were like that in Terranoff. Now,
first off, that player, fairly creative, but kind of sadistic.
A little bit, yeah.
Well done.
Flammable eyes and, lead into the throat.
I would think if you said yes to the second one, you could have said yes to the first one. At that point, you basically this is a game of yes but. Try to say yes but. Yes and yes but whatever. Yeah. And
but.
No but. No. You don't want to say no but. Anyways, and you just figured out from there. Ask the players like, well, it's not this. What do you think? Well, conjure. It would be totally conjure, right? Or summon.
It could be conjure, but if it's causing damage, if it's causing damage, it's an attack. It's just, to borrow a term from another role-playing game, it's a trapping. It's what the spell looks like.
What role-playing game would that be?
Some kind of thing that has S&W Star Wars? No, that's not right.
So what I did was I actually responded to him in the email, and I actually gave him a couple of examples of how that could have been spent for both of those in describing how those attacks would work.
What's that?
In the case of the transmute the eye juice into something flammable, the difficulty would be 5 formidable with an automatic upgrade. You have the base difficulty of 1, adding 2 for deadly, 2 for poisonous, and 1 for burn. I'm sorry, 1 for deadly, 1 for burn, and 2 for poisonous, for a total of 5. And then, of course, the automatic upgrade because it's difficult, and you're kind of trying to cast a spell into another person's body. That kind of means an automatic upgrade.
Yep.
So 5 formidable, pretty good.
Yeah.
And then the lead throat plug one, I would say would be 4 daunting because you have the base spell. Again, deadly and poisonous because you're trying, it's lead. It's going in their throat. It's going to restrict their breathing. They'll get a resistance or resilience check to be able to try and breathe past it. And you didn't say molten lead, so I assumed you don't want burn handed to it.
Tony, you took those things off the attack table and kind of applied them to the conjuring table, then, right?
Right, because they're essentially all he's doing is attacking. He's not really conjuring anything.
Right.
It's just a trapping of your attack to conjure something.
Cool.
And it's really just an attack spell. When you're trying to do damage to someone, even if it's inventive damage to someone, it's an attack.
It's an attack, yeah.
What was it? Conjuring might have been okay if he was like summoning some kind of really big rock just above the bandit's head. That would have been conjure, and then you just let gravity take over. But that's another matter.
Giant brick of lead over the dude's head, I'm totally okay with that being a summoning. Now, he mentioned utility, and this is why he shouldn't have utility, and he called it. Didn't seem right. Didn't seem right. Utility should never be more than 1 purple difficulty.
Yeah.
That does not fit under that spell. No. Utility should always be something simple, something very easy that any wizard or caster could accomplish.
That could use as a utility, like your mage hand.
Like a cantrip.
Your cantrips, right. Mending
making
something.
Your clothes clean.
Making your clothes clean, you're right. Yeah. Making your voice louder.
Yeah. Picking your friend's nose.
Detecting magic in an area, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Reading, detecting, like, evil or whatever, too. Those kinds of things.
Lighting candles.
And the reason why I said, and I'm getting back into the email, and the reason why I said it should always be an attack is because you're always going to want to apply adversary.
Yep.
because you'll want your big bads to be able to resist this, or at least get those despairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then again, like an automatic upgrade because you're trying to cast a spell onto or into an enemy is reasonable. If they have adversary, you don't need to apply it, or maybe you do if you really want to ramp it up a little bit. And then at the very end, definitely a great reason to flip a GM story point.
Oh, always. Yep. Have it reflect back on them. Oh, my eye. You just burned your own eyes out. Now, we wouldn't do anything that mean, would we?
No.
But anyhow, the rest of his email. As always, thank you for your hard work, gentlemen. I love the show, and I'm glad to hear that you will be on it more, Stefan. Also, being in Iowa, I know your point about people now having no clue about towns in relationship to one another. Yeah, they're probably a little further spaced out down there than they are down here, up Michigan. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Matt, for the letter and for welcoming me onto the show. Guys named Matt are always great.
Yeah.
And so, yes, thank you for emailing us, Matt. It was a great question.
Yes.
So that was all I chose for. We got a couple of more of the, hey, you guys are doing a great job kind of emails and messages. Those are always fun, but I'm sure they're not fun for our listeners. So you guys want to get on to the next show topic?
Fine.
Let's do it.
Then.
All right.
Welcome to 50 Pieces of Awesome. This is where Chris goes out onto the internet and finds something to share with us.
So this is actually pretty awesome because I found these Genesis one-shots by Pocket Contents. That's the name, Pocket Contents. They're up on. There's a website that he or she has up there that have. Then there's 4 of these one-shot adventures, anywhere between 2 to 5 pages long. There's one called Death at Gardner House, and each one of these kind of have their own little description page, and then there's a PDF that you can download that has everything you need. It has like visitor background, timelines if needed, bad guys, and even some like difficulties for specific checks during the adventure. So for an example, this first one, Death at Gardner House. The premise is May 14th, 1910. During the passage of Halley's Comet, a millionaire's murder points to a dark ritual and a missing child. Bum, bum, bum. So this one's kind of neat. I mean, and the thing is mystery, horror, and bowler hats. That's kind of the description, like the tags on. I'm like, okay, bowler hats. Okay, cool. Gets you in the mood. The look and feel of this thing is pretty sweet. It's got a newspaper printing. Little difficult to kind of maybe follow where things are, but if you read it, it makes sense, and it's pretty cool. Also has 5 pre-gens, 15 pages of pre-gens, all starting at like a starting level XP. And then what's really neat, it has a link to node-based design for stories. I don't know what that is, but I have a link for it, and I'll go try it out if I want to create this node-based design for stories or whatever. So that's kind of neat. And then there are a couple other ones. There's something called Mummy's Boy, Zombie High, zombies, teens, in modern day. What else do you need to really say, right? It's the night of the Halloween dance at Sentinel Lake High School, an event which is sure to prove lively. Just reading that, I'm like, okay, I like this guy's, what do you call it? Humor, right? I mean, it's pretty sweet. Yeah. There's a sweet-ass map in this thing, too. And then there's something called The Clone Flu from Shadows of the Beanstalk. I believe... I haven't listened to the Dice Pool podcast, but I think this inspired him to create this adventure. And it's Gentechi's clones are dying of a never-before-seen strain of influenza. The company believes they know who's behind the outbreak, but they need some freelancers to prove it. pretty cool. And that's like a 2-page adventure. So
very nice.
Yeah, these are pretty cool. This is kind of your not everybody really showed up. Let's run a one-shot kind of thing, maybe.
Oh, like I really screwed up the last time we had our Saturday night game. Yeah.
What?
We had our Saturday night game a couple weeks ago, and you and Daryl couldn't make it, so I decided to run a one-shot for the Grognards, and I let them make their own characters, and then tried to run them through the FFG one-shot.
Yeah.
And they made non-combat characters.
Oh, that's so cool. Well done, everybody.
And that one shot is absolutely combat driven. So yeah, I had.
So awesome.
Well, we had to get creative. Let's put it that way.
Awesome.
It went well.
Cool.
And these one shots could be, sometimes a little seed to spark maybe a longer term adventure or a little campaign.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, kind of a fill-in for an adventure if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very nice.
I like the idea. I really do.
Yeah, these are pretty sweet.
Very good.
So.
Well then, Pocket Contents, we award you 50 pieces of awesome.
Sweet. Well done.
Is that for each entry or just for the whole thing?
No.
That's for the whole thing.
We're going to bust our budget.
I might have messed up again. I might have messed up again. I could have totally milked this one too. Oh, here's another one shot. But that seems kind of cheesy. This concept of the one shot adventures.
12 and a half pieces of awesome for each one.
12 and
one
a half.
Shot. Yeah.
Awesome.
Like
for a total of 60
8,
pieces of
break
awesome.
them.
Yeah, you gotta break them. Yeah, pieces of 8. Here's your 4 pieces of 8.
Well, shall we get on to
Matt.
the main subject of our show?
And the name of our what do you call it? Episode is what, Tony?
Equip it good.
All right, let's get into it.
Equip it good.
All right, everybody, here we are. Welcome to the books of Genesis. Oh. Yay, that actually turned out pretty good, even though I got a little sick.
I didn't hear any phlegm at all. Good job, buddy.
There we go. Good. Open up your books of Genesis to page 82. Sorry, your core book to page 82. And if you're in the PDF, it's page 83. Like myself. And we are going to talk equipment. Because...
yes.
Yeah. And I guess we want to start off by... Yeah, we're gonna talk some rarity, what that means, and then we're gonna go into encumbrance, some item qualities. I kind of want to go through a lot of as I was reading, some of the item qualities. I'm like, oh, so that's how that one works. That I might be doing wrong. So we might want to spend a little more time on those. I'd like to and go through some of them. So let's kick this puppy off with
Let's boilerplate here.
Sure.
Because in Genesis, you have 3, count them 3, types of equipment.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, let's start there.
Okay. So, what are those 3? Number 1, you have weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Those will have a certain type of stats. And then you have, number 2, you have armor, which will have a certain type of stats. And then you have the catch-all for everything else. Cyberware, mods, communication devices, tools, anything under the sun falls under
gear. Yeah. Falls under gear. And then you can go into subcategories of gear, which is medical equipment, communications equipment, those kinds of things, if you'd like. But that's basically a matter of just grouping that type of gear together. So,
and depending on your game, there's another category called sex toys, but that's another matter.
Right.
I don't know what kind of game you play there, Stefan.
Hey, who doesn't role play, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
I play Genesis with 3 X's.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Anyways,
so I'd never play Genesis with my ex. I'm just saying. So, all right. So let's get into rarity. Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of self-explanatory, and how rare something is. Where can you find it?
Right.
To buy.
And in Genesis, it's on a scale of 0 to 10, with 10 being the hardest.
Yeah.
With stuff that's, very hard to get, very hard to find, and sometimes restricted. Mm-hmm. Not everyone can buy, I don't know, plutonium.
Not everybody.
Not yet,
Maybe
anyway.
if you're from Canada, you can't. In America, we might have that later on. No. I mean,
so not
only to purchase, but even to trade, like to sell it and to trade. There's a rarity. Rarity is involved in that as well.
Yeah, even a chance to find it. Even if you don't, you don't have maybe the contacts to try to find this stuff. It's like, okay, I need, armor-piercing bullets. Well, I'm just a guy who works at the bake shop. I don't know the contacts to find this kind of ammo.
And this is vague for a reason. It allows GMs to have the freedom to make getting hard things a difficult, or it could be an encounter. It could be something that you have to role play out. I used to have a rule that anything over a certain, when I played the certain Shift 7D game, that anything over a certain GP amount, you had to role play trying to buy.
Oh, there you go. That's cool.
And so similarly in Genesis, you can set that. My bar is anything that usually is in a smaller, depending on the area you're in a smaller city, anything above 5, you're going to have to role play out, or you're going to have to roll at least to try and get. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can go, you can kind of tweak it depending on the setting that the players are in.
Right. And you might not want to do that for everything that they're going to grab, right? I mean, because when I was in high school, and when I was first playing the Shift 7D game, we spent 2 hours in Ye Magic Shop or buying equipment or whatever, right? Now, that
can be fun. You can have story hooks in there, man.
You can have story hooks and stuff in there, but nowadays, no, man. I don't want to bookkeep and whatever and do stuff. But there can be some pretty neat things you can do to try and find some items. So what kind of checks would we make to find these items? There's a couple skills you can use.
There's 3 really. Mm-hmm. The first one is, and the one you're going to use the most, is going to be negotiation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the second one, when you're looking for anything that's an illegal or black market item, is going to be streetwise.
Right. Like for those armor-piercing bullets, Stefan wants to find.
Yeah, that's it.
Or the plutonium, so to speak.
And
nothing suspicious here. No, nothing suspicious.
And a third that I never knew existed until I read this chapter again the other day. You could use knowledge skills that would apply to. So, for instance, if you're, say, in a setting that has knowledge science and you're trying to get something scientific apparatus or something, you could use your knowledge skill to get it. Mm-hmm. The knowledge
warfare for military.
Exactly.
Equipment.
If you're trying to get something with a knowledge, then the knowledge that it would apply is what you would roll.
Right.
So.
Would you go? So here's a question: would you go as far as using like mechanics or medicine or computers to find items related to those skill checks and disciplines? Or not?
I don't know if that's the purvey of those particular skills. But if you say we're trying to negotiate or do a streetwise check or even a knowledge check, and you had a lot of ranks in one of those skills, I would apply some boost dice.
Okay. Because, I mean, in a way, making a medicine check, it kind of is a knowledge check. Because you need knowledge to do medicine, right? So you do have some sort of knowledge.
Well, yeah, just like my knowledge computers, So
I like the idea. I like the idea.
You can determine if you do find a contact, what is he telling you? Is he telling you is the right part that you want for your computer or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I like your idea, Tony, there of adding boost dice based on the number of ranks in a linked kind of skill. That's cool. That's cool.
All right. So we have a chart here on page 82, table 15-1, the rarity table. And that just gives you a ballpark of what something should be and what rarity it is, what the difficulty of the check to find it is. And it goes from simple checks for things that are 0 and 1 items, or 0 and 1 rarity, all the way to formidable 5 dice for a 10 rarity item, which it describes as a military strategic bomber.
Or
would be a rarity. Or the plutonium. Now, it also has up above in a note here for rarities higher than 10. And, well, you're thinking, wait a minute, the scale only goes to 10. Well, the scale goes to 10 on the inherent rarity of an item. Mm-hmm. However, there are modifiers over on the next page. Mm-hmm. Rarity modifiers for where you're looking for it, what you're looking for, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so those rarities could increase over 10. And for every rarity rating over 10, for every 1, you should upgrade the difficulty of the formidable check. Mm-hmm. So just if you are looking for that military strategic bomber in an active war zone, you're looking at a 13 rarity,
which seems counter intuitive to me.
I don't think so. Would you be looking for a strategic bomber in a ground battle?
An active war zone, that's where I would be looking for a frickin' bomber, dude.
No. Those things are going to be kept behind friendly lines way back where they can take off.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
I did serve in the United States Armed Forces here. I do know these things, just a little bit.
All right, well, I appreciate you explaining the counterintuitiveness of this. Okay, then how about this one? Post-disaster wasteland. Why is my plutonium harder to find? No. Sorry.
A post-disaster wasteland?
Plus 4, man.
It's everywhere. It's in the air.
Used up already.
It's been used up.
You now have to design a plutonium collector.
There we go.
Just pull it out of the atmosphere.
And that bomber in the active war zone, you might find one, but it'll be a wreck. It might need a few repairs.
You're right. That's right.
You'll find a wing over here, a seat over there.
There you go.
So it gets into selling items also. Not just are you buying items, but you sell items too. So it says here, on page 83, what's it say there, Stefan, about selling an item?
You want me to...
How much do you work here, buddy? Come on, step up.
You don't need to read aloud. Just paraphrase it. You should have done your homework. Call me out. Call me out, motherfucker.
All right. So when selling an item, then your character needs to make a negotiation check. Because, again, he wants to, of course, to have the best price possible. Yep. And, of course, that'll be determined by, again, the rarity of the item. So if it's really rare, you have a better chance of getting a high price. Mm-hmm. And your character can generally sell an item, though, for a quarter of its cost if you succeed. And increasing that to 1/2 if you get at least 2 successes. And maybe even 3/4 if you get 3 successes or more.
That's cool.
So, and then you can adjudicate with your GM, if you have advantages and triumphs, what
that would do.
Rewards you can get, exactly. And then the all-important despair as well. Yes.
Yes, you are able to sell those enemy guns here. However, local constabulary has been looking for those guns.
And they will be here in 2 minutes.
Yes. They've been tipped off, and these red and white lights that are... red and blue lights that are flashing in the windows. This is the welcoming committee.
It's a whole new encounter.
Exactly.
All right. We kind of brushed on it a little bit, but...
Our rival gang wants those guns.
Yep.
We brushed on it a little bit, but what's it say on the black market stuff, Chris?
Well, the black market stuff, you would basically be using, instead of negotiation to sell these items or buy items, you'd use Streetwise. Because you need those underground contacts And that's kind of lumped inside in the streetwise check and such there. So, and that's in the sidebar on 85 here. Black market items. So
now in a system,
yeah, go ahead.
In a system like, okay, I'm going to use the example of Star Wars, where you have knowledge underworld and streetwise both in there. I would even go so far as to have knowledge underworld be what you use to find items, and then streetwise be what you use to buy and sell them.
Yeah, that could work. Knowing where to buy and sell.
Well, if you remember how they explain the difference that I've always seen knowledge underworld versus streetwise is underworld. I know the item. I know they sell plutonium or on this planet, right? On Earth, right?
Okay.
And I know that this gang might do it, but then once you're there, streetwise is used to find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, finding the exact spot.
That's one of the things where, that's what I've always found, but I would go so far as I would even use either, to be honest. I wouldn't mind, knowledge underworld, knowledge, or streetwise, they're very similar. But if you use knowledge underworld, I'd make it harder. I'd increase the difficulty by 1. But I would still allow it. I would still knowledge underworld be used to find black market items, but I'd make it just slightly harder.
Well, yeah, because you're not dealing with people yet. You're just trying to get where's a good place to start?
Yeah.
That's
the way I see it.
Mos Eisley, oh yes, the wretched hive of scum and villainy definitely can find smugglers there and a ride-off planet.
Now, back to your original question about computers, because I just had a thought.
Yeah.
What if the item being bought and sold is being bought and sold over the web?
Yeah.
Like in an Android setting, and you're doing the net.
That's a good idea.
And you're ordering stuff. Then I would think maybe computers instead of negotiation.
I would even use Knowledge Net in Android. I would use Knowledge the Net for that.
There you go. That's
There's
right.
Your knowledge
Knowledge Net.
There you go. Yeah,
Sure.
Finding the chat rooms that have that, and especially if it's illegal.
Buddy.
Yeah,
dude.
I just realized I'm going to be running more Android, so I got to get this down.
Got to get it down. Yeah.
Chris is not just a pretty face.
Oh, thank you there, Stefan. Dorian Gray.
He's got a nice ass too.
What? You said that out loud.
Skipping on to the
everybody.
next section, let's talk about Chris's nice ass, the encumbrance value.
The encumbrance value. Well, there was something I want to maybe touch on real quick. There's the whole if you're running some sort of like smuggling operation, or if you're moving like the trade goods thing, right? Where you take a bulk of like spice or guns and you're gun running or whatever, right? If you would take it from one place to another, and it makes it even rarer if you take it, like if you're going from like a metropolitan city, right? And you want to take guns or whatever out to like some rural area, which makes it a little more rare.
Yeah.
Then the cost involved in trading, you would use this table 5-3 on page 83 to figure out that final cost when you make that negotiation check or streetwise check if you're selling these unwanted black market goods or legal items too.
Or even items that are highly sought after in another place. You buy medicine in North America and you go to Africa and sell them like, yeah, we want medicines.
Yeah, and something like that would be like probably you'd increase the rarity by 3, right? Frontier location, maybe active war zone.
At least frontier kind of location.
Things. Yeah. A rural.
It's definitely not.
I mean, you just look. Yeah, so it'll either be ×2 or even ×3 the price, something like that. But you'll use that table to kind of use that guy. Okay. I just wanted to mention that.
No problem.
That was a
good idea.
Interesting thing there. And GM's got to watch out. Your players will always want to game the game. So read up on this. Be familiar with it. Because if you have players like I have players, they'll want to game.
You can always determine something can't be sold in some location or can't be bought there, period. Regardless of what the rarity of the items are, regardless of where you can, Hey, great, you just land on Lilliput. You're not getting a freaking human-sized tank there. Sorry.
No, exactly. No, we don't have plutonium here. This is Canada.
And
They don't have
have
human-sized
maple syrup.
swords.
and I know you tens of listeners that are out there are saying, but aren't you saying no? No, you're saying yes, you can buy that here if there was a place to buy it here. See, you're still saying yes.
Yes, if.
That's a yes if. Yes,
It was still
and
available.
yes, and if it was available, but it's not.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We just sold the last bit of plutonium to this other guy. So sorry.
all right, encumbrance. Talk to us, Tony,
Encumbrance
about
values and
encumbrance.
encumbrance threshold. So encumbrance values, your items are going to have an encumbrance of basically 1 through 5 or 6.
What's encumbrance? What does it mean?
The encumbrance
weight?
it's a weight, it's their bulk, it's their difficulty to carry. So it's more of a measure of their weight, mass, and collective bulk.
Yep.
It's not weight alone.
You're right.
Carrying around 3 bushels of hay,
Pretty
they're
bulky.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty bulky. You may be the strongest dude in the world, but it's really unwieldy too. So it's going to be really hard. That kind of thing. So, and the encumbrance values for equipment, like I said, is going to have a rating of 1 to, actually it's
0.
from 0
Zero.
to about 5 or 6. Anything more than 6, and you're getting beyond what a humanoid is going to be able to pick up.
So how do we know? What can we pick up? How's that calculated? That's something I'm always wanting to know.
You have your encumbrance threshold. Your encumbrance threshold is calculated by using the rating of 5 plus your brawn rating. So for the typical average human, that would be an encumbrance threshold of 7. That means they could carry around 7 encumbrance worth of stuff.
Gotcha.
Now that does not include, because armor has its own rules about encumbrance, that does not include the armor being worn, because carrying around a suit of plate mail in your arms is a lot different than resting it on your shoulders, wearing it where it's supposed to be worn, because it spreads the weight about your whole body. So what they say, the rule is that the encumbrance value of an armor is reduced by 3 when it is worn.
Down to a 0.
Down to a 0. So with that, a full suit of plate mail being about 5 or 6, your plate mail will still have some encumbrance to it, but it won't be near as bad.
So Stefan,
Yep.
what happens if I'm wearing or carrying something over this threshold of 7 that I may have on average? What happens?
Well, then you start suffering from the effect of carrying all that weight. So eventually, you get sore muscles and tired, and that's represented by assigning some setback dice to your agility and brawn-based skills. Because you can't move properly. Like I said, you're carrying it, so your muscles get tired. So if you try some of those kind of skills, well, there you go.
And that's for
I
every...
swing my sword, but I have both the shield and the backpack that has all the gold and my plutonium as well. And
We're going with that, huh? That's the theme, the plutonium theme show.
and the lead-lined case in it as well in the backpack. So,
Yep.
So how do I determine how many setback dice to give them?
It looks like here it's for every point above your encumbrance limit. So if that plutonium put my threshold up to like a 9.
your
That'll be
usual
2
threshold is
setback.
7.
Right.
Okay.
But if that does put it up to a 9, there's something called excessive encumbrance. So if it is higher than my brawn rating, so my brawn rating is 2. So if I'm carrying anything higher, 2 or more above like 7, then it's gonna hurt. So that would be, so actually it would be anything over 9. So at 10, I would start feeling it big time.
Yeah.
Right?
And what does that mean when you're feeling it?
Well, it means that I lose my free maneuver, for one, mechanically speaking.
So you just can't walk.
No, it's not free. I have to suffer strain to do it.
Aha!
Right? Yeah.
All right.
It's not free anymore. It does cost me something.
So there you go. So it's it now starts to cost you a finite resource. So you're not going to be carrying more than your weight for long.
Nope.
Or could you downgrade your action to a maneuver to move?
Yeah, but I wouldn't get an action.
Strain?
Well, I wouldn't get an action.
But then you're sacrificing an action, but you don't suffer the strain.
Right.
But you're just concentrating on, this is heavy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You now are a mule.
Yeah.
All right. So it gets into calculating
lifting.
that lifting.
That's
into
different.
the next part here.
Mm-hmm.
If your character needs to lift an object with an encumbrance value greater than their encumbrance threshold, such as an ally who has fallen off a gantry or ledge, they must make an athletics check. The difficulty, the base difficulty is easy if the object's encumbrance value is 1 more than your character's encumbrance threshold. You should increase that difficulty by 1 for every additional point over up to a maximum encumbrance of 4 and a difficulty of daunting. So a character with a brawn of 2 and a threshold of 7, for example, tries to lift a rock with an encumbrance value of 10. That's 3 over his encumbrance threshold. Mm-hmm. It's a hard lift check.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
That's it.
Yep. But
All right.
if the strong Stefan here wants to help me with that rock, and he has a brawn of 3, there's an example down here.
Mm-hmm.
He adds his brawn to my encumbrance threshold.
So then your combined encumbrance threshold becomes 10.
Becomes 10, and then we can just do it.
Do it
You guys
easy.
could just both run with the rock, maybe. Who knows?
That would be fun
I'd
to
slice
look
that
at.
back nice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right,
All right,
so
so
that's
it talks
that.
about concealing our gear here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's going to happen. That, someone wants to hide that lightsaber or knife or data chip that they just pocketed.
Yeah. Which they say something here. They say, this is interesting. An encumbrance value of 1 or less can be hidden easily. You don't really even need to make a check to hide
That's right.
the item. Which
However,
makes sense. Yeah.
Instead, if another person is trying to search you,
Yep.
you're walking into a police station, and there's a guy with a wand searching everybody for guns and drugs.
Yeah.
Well, you've got your little plastic pistol hidden in your boot.
Yep. Right next to my dime bag of Coke.
That's a perception check on the behalf of the individual trying to, and it's opposed by your character's stealth.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to add 1 boost die to the searcher's check for every encumbrance value over 1 that is due to the hidden item. And that's if you're trying to hide multiple items, you accumulate that too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and because that guy searching has the right tool for the job, I would say
oh yeah,
he'd get a boost die as well on it.
correct.
Also, if he's trying to detect metal and your item does have some metal on it, well, yeah.
Yep.
Now let's say you're walking down the street, you're wearing a trench coat, and you've got a shotgun hidden in it, and a cop walks across the street. What kind of check is that?
Still an imposed check, but in that case, it's his vigilance against your stealth.
Because he's
Because
not
not-
actively searching.
No, exactly.
And that's
Unless,
the
you
difference.
piss him off or you flip the bird at him.
Then he might actively look. But that's the main difference between perception and vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
Perception is picking out the details in the environment that you know about. Vigilance is picking up new things that come into your environment that you don't necessarily know about. So it would be that person walking on the street. Oh, yeah. So it's think of it as an active versus passive, sonar kind of.
Yeah.
You can apply this rule and a little fast and easy rule here. I've just so you know, concealing something. If you wanted to hide, say, a rifle in a dumpster, okay, and the dumpster can hold a lot, and a rifle with an encumbrance value of 4, that's pretty easy. to hide something in there.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, hiding a person on a big starship. You can totally with that stuff, instead of using encumbrance values to kind of give you the math on it, you would use silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But those things, hiding a small child in a car, a car with a silhouette of 2 and a small child with a silhouette of 0, it's going to be pretty easy to hide him in there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
So just something, as an idea there. All right, now we get into the part of the book that you wanted to cover the most, Chris, and that is the item qualities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes these are little. I always have to sometimes come and reference these because I forget. But one of the main rules that everybody needs to remember is item qualities can be either passive or active. Either there's a quality that's always on, or there's an active quality, which means it needs to be triggered. And typically, that's if it's on a weapon, you have to hit. You have to succeed at hitting in order to activate the quality, and that's typically to advantage, unless otherwise specified in the item quality description. And then there are 1 or 2 of them that if you do miss, you can still activate it, and we'll get into those.
And there are qualities that are both beneficial and not so beneficial.
There is that. That's right.
All right. And one thing is got a little sidebar here because it mentions some of these mention the base damage of a weapon. That is going to be the damage number that a weapon gives. So if you look, for example, at the example weapon on page 91, the revolver, it's going to have a base damage of 6. That is your weapon's base damage. Right. Now, if you have effects, meaning spell augmentations or modifications, or even I'm trying to think of something else. The talents, thank you, that would increase the base damage of the weapon. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure that your base damage of the weapon is you have that number, because that number becomes important for some of these talents and then some of these qualities.
Yeah, and then the base damage of the knife is a +1, which means you'll add your brawn to it. So it'd be brawn +1 would be your base damage for a knife.
And that's the way it is for all hand-to-hand weapons, melee weapons.
Yep. So
okay, let's get into them.
Let's
take the first one.
Sure. So accurate is a passive quality that's always on. You have an accurate weapon, you always get to add a boost die whenever you're wielding this weapon. And Stefan, you don't ever have to ask for one.
No, don't even have to.
We always get it.
Cool.
What's the next one?
That's leveled also. So for each level of that quality, it adds a boost die. So if you have accurate 2, it adds 2 boost dice.
Oh, so you can get accurate again. Nice.
Very nice.
All right.
It's very balanced. It's very high quality or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so which of you two want to take the next one?
I'll take it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Auto fire. A weapon with auto fire can shoot in a rapid succession, potentially spray an area with bolts, flechettes, slugs, or other projectiles. The advantage of using auto fire is that you can hit multiple targets or hit a single target multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Attacking with a weapon on auto fire is generally less accurate. So therefore, you must immediately increase the difficulty on the combat check. The user may choose not to use the auto fire quality on the weapon. In this case, they do not trigger this quality. They cannot trigger the quality, and suffer the aforementioned and do not suffer the aforementioned penalty. If the attack hits, the attacker can trigger auto fire by spending 2 advantage. So it just doesn't automatically hit multiple times. You actually have to spend 2 advantage, and auto fire can be triggered multiple times. So with 4 advantage, you can do twice.
Yep. But you still have to hit. You have to hit.
And each time the attacker triggers auto fire, it deals an additional hit to the target or additional targets. Each of these counts as an additional hit from the weapon, and each hit deals base damage +1 for each success, uncanceled success.
Mm-hmm.
These additional hits can be allocated to the original targets or to other targets within range.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you wish to hit multiple targets, you have to choose the hardest to hit target for your roll.
Right. One with the highest difficulty and highest defense.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to hit the Nemesis boss and all of his minions, you got to aim at the boss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he's got 3 levels of adversary and he's at,
Medium range.
And then there comes into a little bit. It's up to the GM. Who is the hardest person to hit? Just keep that in mind. Because there you may end up with someone at medium range that's easier to hit than someone that it's extreme range, and so on and so forth. So, not to get into the minutia of it, it's up to the GM who's the harder to hit.
Right.
And the GM chooses the initial target and tells you the difficulty.
Yep.
The initial hit must always be against the initial target, and then subsequent hits can be allocated to any other targets in the area. Auto-fire weapons can also activate 1 critical injury for each hit generated on the attack per the normal rules, and the critical injury must be applied to the target of the specific hit. So if you hit the same target twice, you can activate critical twice.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You just need to, as long as you have the advantage to do it.
That would be 6 advantage.
Or the triumph.
Well, it depends. Whatever the critical rating is on your weapon.
Yeah,
right?
If the crit was only 2, it'd be 6 advantage needed. If it was more than that, it'd be more than that. So, all right, on to the next one.
Yep. But you still have to spend. So if you activate it, let me get this straight now. If you activate a critical injury, you have to activate crit on the first hit. Then you need to spend more advantage to activate crit on the second hit.
Correct.
But you also have to have some of those. Yeah, but you also need to use some of those advantages to activate auto-fire.
Yes, hence
Correct.
the 6. I understand. Math, hard. Got it.
So you're better off not using some of those triumphs to activate crits.
Yes. And
Alrighty
typically, glad you said that, Stefan. I did mention, typically it costs 2 advantage to activate a special quality on a weapon. You can always use a triumph to do it, to activate a quality on a weapon as well.
Yeah, not just a crit.
But you have to still hit to do it.
Yep.
On most of these.
Exactly.
All right, dude. Talk to me about Blast.
All right.
What is Blast?
This is
what my cat just did in this room. I'm serious.
Is that why you're waving your hand around?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
I thought that was more of a variation of burn.
Oh, no, it's Blast.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a weapon that has a large spread, an explosive blast or similar effect, like a grenade or a missile, a rocket launcher. So if, again, the attack succeeds and blast activates, then each character engaged with the original target that you were aiming at suffers a hit equal to the base damage plus any uncancelled successes as well.
Yeah, what's important there is those 3 words that are in parentheses. Friend or foe.
Friend or foe. That's it. So, because, usually those kinds of weapons are indiscriminate. If they collateral damage, well, that's kind of what it means. And it says also, like, in a relatively small or enclosed area, the game master might decide that everyone in the room suffers damage no matter what. Because, basic physics, explosions, bounces against the wall, and comes back in.
Yeah, like my favorite drink, Fireball.
There we go.
It's addressed to everyone in the room.
And if the blast quality doesn't activate, the ordnance still detonates, but bad luck or poor aim for the part of the firer when you launched it means that the explosion may not catch anyone else in its own radius. But as it says, it adds a caveat. However, the user can still trigger the blast even if the attack misses. So this is one of the few occasions where even if you don't succeed, because it's like horseshoes and grenades, close enough hit.
Hand grenades, that's right.
You can still use 3 advantages to activate blast. So in this case, the original target and every engaged target do suffer the base damage.
Mm-hmm.
But since
No,
there's
Not base damage. Is equal to the blast rating.
Oh, the blast rating. Sorry.
Yep.
Right.
That could be a big difference.
Yeah.
Or not, depending what it is.
So when you see the number next to the blast radius, that's if he misses. That's the base damage of a miss on your attack.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you use the base damage of the weapon. If you do succeed in hitting, then you can add your additional successes.
That's right. Yeah. So your original target takes the base damage of the grenade, and then the surrounding friends and foes takes the blast quality plus your uncancelled successes. And if you miss,
well, no, if you succeed, both the original target and everyone engaged suffers the base damage plus the successes.
Oh gosh, the original target takes blast too. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
That's how Baka died.
And if you miss, they only take the base damage of the blast quality.
Gotcha.
Because there's no successes to add, but all of them suffer that.
And that's why Baka twitches whenever people suggest explosions.
Yes.
Don't play with them in elevators.
That's right, I should. I tried. All right.
I'll
the
take
stairs are
Breach.
amazing. You're going to take Breach?
Elevator music.
Yeah, I'll take Breach. Breach is simple. Weapons with Breach burn through the toughest armor. They're often on heavy weapons or weapons mounted on some sort of vehicle. Hits from weapons with Breach, with the Breach quality, ignore 1 point of vehicle armor for every rating of Breach. Mm-hmm. So that means they ignore 10 points of soak on a personal scale. All right, so, yeah. Beware of Breach on a personal scale.
Yes.
That's right. Watch out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Homie wants to take Burn.
I'll take Burn. It's a bigger one. Okay, so when you hit, you can activate this Burn quality. And basically, your target will suffer the weapon's base damage for a number of rounds equal to the Burn rating. Okay? If multiple targets get hit by a weapon with Burn, you have to trigger it multiple times, affecting each target. Okay? And then they can put the Burn out, if you will. Now, they will take this damage at the beginning of their turn. Their target will. So I don't think they'll take it. They take Burn right away. It's when it starts their turn, they take the damage. Right, Tony? I think that's how we've been doing it, yeah. And then on their turn, then, they could take an action to make a coordination check of an average difficulty to try and put the Burn out. Or jumping into water. They're going to
suffer the damage at least once.
Yeah, they're going to suffer the damage at least once. But they have to take an action to put it out, basically. That's what this means.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's a coordination check?
That'd be a coordination check, average difficulty, on hard surfaces, or if they're in the grass or soft ground or sand or whatever, it would be an easier check. If they jump into water, stops it immediately. But if it's like a chemical burn, chemical things, then it could be, I don't know, could be more difficult.
Right.
I would think. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Removing oxygen and stuff, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is for assuming that it's fire or burn, heat based.
Because burn can apply to acid as well, and that requires a totally different circumstance to get rid of. So
and you might use like a, like an alchemy check to put it out, or however you want to do it. Just remember the yes and kind of thing, right?
Medicine
checks or something, right.
Could you use burn to represent other types of damage? Like this is like generic, maybe.
I would. I don't.
For Genesis.
This is
could
a
you use
system.
Like a poison type of.
Yeah, there is. I believe there is a. This mechanic is a good one for ongoing damage, right?
Right.
And I can't remember, how do they do it for poison?
Poison requires a resilience check.
Yeah, or else they're going to take the damage. So it's kind of the same, if you will.
And poison's handled differently, but you could use the burn mechanic for any kind of ongoing damage, as long as you as the GM make it clear what it takes to the players to remove it. They assume they're hit with burn, they're going to assume fire. But if it's acid, say you require a medicine check to put it out, or if it's poison, it's a toxic poison, maybe they require a resilience check to remove.
And I would keep the difficulties kind of the same, right? I mean, I would make the check average, and if they can improve their circumstance, if they can, I turn on a fan, then maybe it's an easy.
I've got a gas mask.
Yeah, I put on a gas mask. Yeah, something like that. All right, cool. All right, Stefan, you want to take the next one?
Yes, concussive. It's an active quality. In this one, the weapon's attack can leave the target shell-shocked from mighty blows or punishing shock waves. Mm-hmm. So that explosion, that like blast, it can be combined with concussive.
Yep.
So it renders the target unable to perform any but the most basic actions. So once it's triggered, one target hit by the attack is staggered, which you can check what that does on page.
You can't take any actions. You could just move.
Yeah, there you go.
Staggered is.
And that's for a number of rounds equal to the weapon's concussive rating.
Yep.
So concussive 3 rounds.
Oh, it says right there, staggered target can't perform actions. Duh.
There you go. And if multiple targets are hit from a weapon with concussive, like when it's combined with blast, for example, the quality may be triggered multiple times, affecting different targets each time.
Yep. There you go. That's cool.
And at the default, most likely, of 2 advantages per to trigger.
All right, Tony, you want to do the next one?
Sure.
This is the one I think I've been doing. I think this is the one I've been doing wrong.
Cumbersome is passive. Cumbersome, a weapon is large, unwieldy, and awkward and heavy. To wield a cumbersome weapon properly, the character needs a brawn characteristic equal to or greater than the weapon's cumbersome rating. For each point of brawn by which the character is deficient, they must increase the difficulty of all checks made using the weapon by 1.
I've been adding setback die. Not in our. I don't think in our game, but as a GM, when I've run these games, I've been adding setback die. Is that different from Star Wars, or that's always been like that?
Yes.
Oh, I've been doing it wrong the whole time. It's not like a podcast or anything.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's why we do our homework and we read.
We learn with our listeners, all 12 of them.
Yeah. Hey, Stefan, I'll take these next 2 because they're related, and then you can take the one after that. So we have defensive, passive, which is a passive quality, and deflection, which is a passive quality, both relating to defensive ratings. One is if a melee defense, if you're the defensive quality, it gives you a defensive rating versus melee attacks. Deflection gives you a defensive rating versus ranged attacks. So.
And now there's key wording here. It says it increases. So it doesn't. So if you already have a defensive rating, if you have a weapon with the defensive quality or the deflection quality, it adds to that.
Gotcha.
It does not replace it.
That's very important. Thanks for clarifying that, Tony. That's a good clarification there.
Yeah,
all right,
no
man.
problem.
Let's go to the next one there.
All right, the other one, disorient, which is also active. A little bit like concussive. This weapon disorients and can daze an opponent. And when it's triggered, one target again that is hit by the attack is disoriented. Disoriented targets add setback dice to all their skill checks because they're seeing stars or a bit rattled.
Yep.
And that's for a number of rounds equal to the disorient rating. And again, just like concussive, if multiple targets suffer from hits from a weapon with disorient, the quality may be triggered multiple times.
See the theme here.
Yeah, Audible as a GM, I've done it before. It's not a hard rule. It's not written in the book this way, but I have allowed players to spend a triumph when rolled with a disorient weapon and hitting multiple targets to allow it to affect every target in the blast.
Right.
Cool.
Well, yeah, why not? It's a triumph.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, it's a triumph.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, that's cool.
All right,
Very
so
nice.
on to ensnare. A weapon with the ensnare is another active quality. A weapon with the ensnare and binds the foe and restricts their movement. So, like concussive, is very common. Just like concussive, this one immobilizes them. So when ensnare is triggered, one target hit by the attack becomes immobilized. See page 114, blah, blah, blah. It just means they can't perform maneuvers. If multiple targets suffer hits from a weapon with ensnare, the quality can be triggered multiple times, affecting a different target each time.
How long are they ensnared? You didn't mention
they are ensnared for a number of rounds equal to the ensnare rating, I think.
Yep.
That's what it says, yes.
Ensnare rating.
Yeah. Yep. And then the ensnared target may perform an action to attempt a hard athletics check on their turn to break free from the effect. Because they can't maneuver, but they can act. So,
Cool.
All right.
Let's see.
You get the hard one, buddy. This is the toughest.
Man, this is a tough one. All right.
You can do it.
And I just read it earlier. All right.
There we go.
So the guided quality basically can only be triggered if an attack misses.
There you go.
If it's triggered, you make a combat check at the end of the round. So after everybody's gone. Okay?
Yeah.
As an out-of-turn incidental. And it's an average difficulty check. But instead of using your normal pool that you would make for the combat check, you're actually using it based on the guided quality of the weapon. So the guided rating, you add that many green dice, your proficiency dice. Are they proficiency dice? They're not proficiency dice. Yeah, they are.
They are ability
dice. Sorry, ability dice.
And proficiency. Yeah.
And then if it's successful, the weapon strikes the target, and then you resolve it, and then it's resolved normally from there. Now, it does take 3 advantage to activate. So basically, think about it this way: if you're using a weapon with a guided quality, probably like a Panzerfaust in a Tannhauser setting that would hopefully be coming out sometime this year, blah blah blah. Come on. You have to miss with at least 3 advantage. Think of it that way, for it to be guided and kind of come back around.
That's where you ask for those boost dice.
Yeah.
And make sure your weapon is accurate.
Yeah, so, and then it says the guided quality can activate on any subsequent combat check it makes, representing the projectile continuing to track the target. So even if it misses again, it continues to guide around and try and get it, right?
Yeah.
Only if it has 3 advantage.
Yeah.
Only if it has 3 advantage. Yeah, and if you don't roll 3 advantage next time...
It loses its lock on and goes,
so,
that's
a little side story on guided.
Okay.
I was running a Star Wars game, and we had a big starfighter kerfuffle going on, a big, huge dogfight, and there were literally, at the end of the round, 4 guided proton torpedoes flying around, still trying to hit their targets for 3 rounds.
Oh, geez.
Dude, that's crazy, but awesome.
I had to keep track of where these freaking proton torpedoes were through the whole for 3 rounds of combat. As a GM, that was hell.
But I'm sure it made for a great session.
I already had 5 starfighters and a freighter in this fight, plus a bunch of TIE fighters. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Sorry, it took me back. I'm like, oh, guided.
Not guided.
I still have PTSD.
Nice.
All right, getting into inaccurate, Stefan.
Yes, I can do the next 2. They're pretty short. So,
Sure.
Inaccurate and inferior both are negative qualities, both passive.
Mm-hmm.
So inaccurate is, of course, the opposite of the accurate one we talked earlier. And for every level of inaccurate, you add a setback dice to your pool.
Cool.
Because it's overbalanced. It's not, it's poor quality. It's partially broken, maybe. And then we have inferior. So that's there's an opposite quality to that, but we'll talk about it later. This one is just a lower quality weapon, shoddy make. Like a dwarven battle axe made by an elf. Something like that. So you add automatic threat to all your checks.
Yep.
So something bad might happen. You can still hit, but something awkward might happen.
Right.
And reduce the chance of activating crits or other qualities.
Now, one thing that's not listed here, but it is listed elsewhere, an inferior item also is considered as having 1 level of damage on it already.
Really? Where's that written?
So, somewhere else in the book, I just don't know where. I can't remember.
Okay.
But it is considered as having one level of damage to it. So it is effectively got harder to repair or easier to sunder.
Well, you'll get setback dice. I don't know about that though, dude.
You don't?
I don't know about that because I think they simplified it here. Might have been in Star Wars.
Might have been.
If you have an inferior weapon, you would automatically get a setback die. One level of damage.
Yeah.
But there's no reason why you can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll find out. We'll find out when we get into
for some reason, I remember seeing this somewhere, and it might have been one of the Star Wars books. I've read so many.
Yeah. Because that would have been a nice detail to add into this particular paragraph, though, instead of putting it elsewhere in the Genesis book, though.
This is true. All right, getting into knockdown. Knockdown is an active quality. When knockdown is triggered, one target hit by knockdown is knocked prone. If multiple targets suffer hits from a weapon with knockdown, the quality may be triggered multiple times, affecting different targets each time. Unless specified otherwise, knockdown only requires 2 advantage to trigger, plus 1 advantage per silhouette beyond silhouette 1. If you're trying to knock down a silhouette 3 robot, it's going to take 4.
Right. And I think Matt G's Goliath, I think one of the things we told him, hey, make it a silhouette 2. Because it'll take 3 advantage to knock you down.
That's it.
That was one of those things. Sweet.
He's big, so he's more stable.
Yep. And then so then our next quality here is limited ammo, and it's a passive quality. And there was a thread out on the FFG forums, somebody asking about like 6-shooters and pistols and all that other stuff about limited ammo. Now the limited ammo quality. This is pretty much used for things that are kind of one-shot items, like grenades or your rocket launchers or something like that. And basically, the limited ammo, the quality rating, limited ammo rating, are the number of attacks you can make with the weapon before you have to reload it. And it's typically a maneuver to reload.
Right. Like one of those, like the Chinese or Japanese crossbows, that they had rapid reload kind of thing. Like that would be limited ammo, maybe like 3.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so it's something like that. And we'll probably get into this towards the end of at the end of this section. I think they have it. Yeah, like tracking ammo and whatever. They basically say, combat typically lasts 3 to 5 rounds. So having those, like the 6-shooters and having like limited ammo 6, you might not want to. Unless you've created a special rule that's like fan and the hammer kind of thing, right? Like in Deadlands, you can fan the hammer, you create something like that. Then you might go into doing more of a limited ammo quality there. But typically it's used for the one-use items and limited ammo. So
Gotcha.
That's that one. Let's go next to...
I'll do the next one.
Sure.
Yep. I've actually... used weapons that had that on my Star Wars games, like, oh yes, linked autocannons. Come on, let's go.
There you go.
So yeah, some weapons are designed to fire together at the same target. They're usually turrets with multiple guns, like the ones you see sometimes in Star Wars. So when a character fires linked weapon on a successful attack, the weapon deals 1 hit, and then you can spend 2 advantage to gain an additional hit. So every 2 advantage, you can up to the rating of the link. So if it has link 2, you can spend 4 advantage basically to get 2 more hits.
Right.
And that will do the base damage plus number of uncancelled successes on the target. Usually you're aiming at the same target.
Yeah. And that's the most important quality, or the most important thing about the linked quality is that all those have to go against the same target.
Well, that's it, because you're basically aiming at one target. It's not auto fire. That would be the auto fire.
Yes. Yep. That's one of the big differences between auto fire and linked. Auto fire, you can hit different targets. Linked, you have to hit the same target.
Well, think of like the X-Wing. They have 4 lasers, but they're linked.
Mm-hmm.
So they're firing only at one TIE fighter, not a whole bunch of TIE fighters.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty then. Tony, you want the next one, or you want me to take it?
Go ahead.
Okay, we have the Pierce passive quality, which is kind of like Breach, but not so badass. So the Pierce quality, the rating of a Pierce, the level of Pierce, ignores that amount of soak on the target. Now, if the person's soak only has 2, and you have a Pierce of 3, it still only just ignores 2 soak. That extra point of Pierce basically has no further effect. You don't do an extra damage or whatever. But it just negates that amount of soak, whatever the Pierce rating is. And that's a passive quality. It's always on.
Gotcha.
Next.
All right. Prepare. Items with this quality require time to set up before being used. The user must perform a number of preparation maneuvers equal to the item's prepare rating. Before using the item. If the item is a weapon, using it would be making attacks with the weapon. At your GM's discretion, moving with the item, being knocked prone with the item, or other disruptions may require the user to perform the preparation maneuvers again before using it.
Awesome.
So a good example is a crossbow.
Yeah.
If you get knocked prone while trying to load a crossbow, the bolt's going to fall out. It's going to have you're going to have to reload it. You're going to have to prepare again.
That's right.
Yeah,
Start over.
You're not in proper position.
Exactly.
And we talked earlier about the revolver. Could you apply prepare to revolver? Assuming it only applies after.
That
of course,
is very interesting you say that, because in that same thread I was telling you about, they were talking about, well, how can you only takes maneuver to load 6 shots? You know what I mean? But it is what it is. To reload a weapon is a maneuver. Because we're not talking 6 seconds here like a D-Shift 7D game. It's a little more abstract. And it takes a maneuver to reload. Right?
And who says they don't have a speed loader?
That's it.
Exactly.
Even back in the Wild West, they just changed out the cylinders.
Exactly.
There you go.
Now, crossbows probably do have the limited ammo quality and a prepare rating. I think they might, if we look in Tiernoth.
I'm not going
to either. I might when Stefan's talking about the next one here, though.
All right. So there you go. The next one is reinforced, which definitely helps you protect yourself against certain effects like, Sunder, as well as Pierce and Breach. So basically, the weapons or item with reinforced quality are immune to Sunder, so you can't be broken. They're made of, adamantium or particularly strong metals or composite materials. And armor with the reinforced quality make the wearer's soak immune to Pierce and Breach. So that nasty Pierce that they had, that Chris mentioned, it's like, yeah, whatever, you're piercing bullets, ting, 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 ting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be careful putting the reinforced quality on things because it tends to break a lot of different weapons.
And by the way, as far as crossbows go, they just have a prepare rating. So you fire it, takes a number of maneuvers to reload.
Yeah.
There we go. That's how it is. All right.
I'd like to bring up maybe one thing that sort of goes with bit reinforced. I have thought of like my little house rule to make a version of reinforced that's not quite as good as reinforced, but still pretty good, that would still maybe apply in certain qualities, in certain settings, maybe in situations. I call it resistant. It's passive again. It has a rating, usually maybe 1 to 3. And it reduces basically the pierce quality of any attack. So if someone's arrows are pierce 1, and you've got an armor that's particularly reinforced, made by dwarven craftsmen, like extra padding and so forth, has
or chainmail. Is chainmail the one that is better versus piercing? I don't know. I'm not a weapons guy, but
not sure.
I always thought that probably was.
Either way.
Yeah.
But either way, if you have an armor that has that, it negates the pierce quality. So it's a little less effective than reinforced.
Or reduces the pierce quality.
Yeah.
By the number of levels of resistant. I got it. Okay.
That's it. So if someone has pierce 2 and you have resistant 2, well, they just cancel each other out.
Cool. Is it out or out?
It's out. All right.
Okay. Dude, that must be a little bit. We've been a little too serious.
Well, we're trying to get through a lot of material here.
That's it.
I know.
So that was my kind of... it's something that costs less, and you don't have to put a lot of ratings into it, because most armors, armor only have up to 3 ratings. I would limit it to 1 to 3. And as a reminder, we talked about the burn associated with resistance, like the burn resistant X. So something, maybe an armor that's made out of a material that is more fire retardant or fire resistant would be a good way of making this to counter a burn weapon.
Yeah, that's cool.
If it makes sense in your setting, if if things with burn are common, well, there might be someone who makes an armor or something to protect you. That counters it a little bit.
I don't know, like maybe in somebody's, what was that? Hellfire? What was it? What was your setting you were going to do, Tony? Hellgate London. Hellgate, yeah, that's what it was.
Or even like in a fantasy setting, you've got a shield made out of red dragon scales. Well, it'll be resistant to fire at the very least.
There you go. That's cool. I like that.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well,
all right, moving on. So slow firing. Slow firing weapons is kind of similar to the limited ammo quality and limited also to prepare, but it's more of an auto-loading kind of thing. Slow firing weapons tend to deal incredible damage, but need to recharge or cool down between shots. A weapon's slow firing rating dictates the number of rounds that pass before the weapon can be fired again after attacking. For example, a heavy laser cannon with slow firing 2 must wait 2 whole rounds of inaction before it can be fired again.
Or like those 88s that the Nazis in the Tannhauser setting, they might take an extra. They might be slow firing too, as well, right? FFG when you come out with the Tannhauser,
whether it's overheating or just the mechanisms moving and preparing the next round.
Exactly. All right. So our next quality is the stun quality. It's an active quality.
These two we should cover together because they're kind of similar.
Yeah, so one is stun, which is an active quality. The other one is stun damage, which is a passive quality. Now, when you're doing stun, let me see. So when the stun quality is activated, it inflicts strain equal to the weapon's stun rating. This is strain and not strain damage. It's not reduced by soak. Okay? So this isn't strain damage. This is just strain. Now, the stun damage quality deals strain damage. And this is what's reduced by soak. Now, there's a, I think in the blasters and the blaster weapons in Star Wars, you could turn on the stun quality, which does stun damage. Okay? That's soaked by the targets. Soaked? Yeah, that damage is soaked.
So, but you could also add to it with uncancelled successes.
Yes.
Whereas stun, it just causes damage equal to it. Well, not causes damage, but it suffers. The target suffers strain
equal to the
stun rating.
Yep.
That's it. So,
and you don't add
uncanceled
successes, right?
No.
Right. So those are two important subtle qualities.
So I love a great example of a weapon that uses both. And I go to Android, to the stun gun.
Oh, yeah.
To the Android setting. The stun gun it has a damage rating of 6. It does stun damage, so it automatically is going to damage someone's stun. But it has a stun rating of 4.
Okay.
So with enough advantage, you can trigger a whole lot more strain inflicted upon your opponent. 4, to be precise, that is unsoakable.
I kind of know what my investigator might pick for a weapon. How much does that weapon cost? I have to look at that.
It's a 200 credits, and it uses melee as a skill. Keep in mind, because it's basically a taser. You're just
I get you.
Somebody. Yeah.
Don't tase me, bro. All right.
Don't tase me, bro.
Don't tase me, bro. All right, so there we go. Let's move on.
All right. Sunder. When activating Sunder, the attacker chooses one item, usually the one you're wielding, by the target. Yeah, you choose something wielded by your target. Sorry.
This is openly wielded. It can't be something they're concealing.
No, exactly. So a weapon or shield, an item
out in their hand.
On a belt.
Yep.
Yeah, a lantern, whatever. And you're trying to basically damage it. You're not the target itself, but the item that he's holding. That's your target now. So the item is damaged by 1 step, from minor to, from undamaged to minor, or if it's already damaged, minor to moderate, etc., until it's completely destroyed. So there we go. Let me start over. If an item already suffering major damage is the target of a successful Sunder, it is then destroyed. So there's 3 levels of damage before it's completely gone.
Yep.
And Sunder requires only 1 advantage to activate, and may be activated even if the attack is unsuccessful.
Ooh,
the Sunder, cool. Sunder may be activated multiple times in the same attack to represent maybe a very powerful hit. But each activation must be applied to the same target, obviously. Hitting his shield, then his armor, then his weapons. No, it's all.
You can't
one.
hit armor. Armor is not openly wielded.
No, true.
Right.
True. And then, potentially taking it from undamaged to destroyed in a single attack. So you might be able to destroy his shield in 1 shot.
Yeah, for 4 advantage. You cannot sunder armor. According to this, because it is not openly wielded. It has to be a weapon or a shield or an item in plain view on a belt.
Then why would I ever make armor reinforced? Because it says reinforced quality immune to the Sunder quality. Armor with the reinforced quality makes the wielder soak immune to pierce and breach qualities. There it is.
There is that. Armor,
that's right.
Armor.
There it is, right there. Clearly plain.
In plain English, my buddy. All right.
Plain English. That's right.
Of course, if your armor armor is reinforced, but you're not wearing it, it is also immune to Sunder.
Is it though?
This is true. If you're just draping it over your shoulder,
or it's just lying there on the floor and you're trying to hit it with your hammer.
Is it reinforced? Because it doesn't say that it is.
It's technically
technically at that point it's an item, right? If you're holding onto it.
It's an item with the reinforced quality, therefore it's treated as an item.
Here's a question. If you're in the middle of donning your armor
and you hold your shirt up to block.
Or you've got your helmet in your hands, and then he's trying to hit the helmet. Well, it's openly wielded. It's in my hands. But you can't break it because it's reinforced.
All right.
That's a fun one to play out. Okay.
That would be kind of neat.
All right. So,
okay, cool. So our next one is the opposite of, what is it? Inferior. We have superior. It's a passive quality. Basically, you get to add advantage to all checks with the item.
And while we're talking about it, I was mistaken about the inferior quality. It used to say in the Star Wars setting that it increased its encumbrance by 1 and reduced its damage by 1 for an inferior item.
That's kind of good. I like that.
Okay.
To be honest.
Now, that's not how it is in Genesis. It's not how it's written, rules as written. But if you wanted to apply the Star Wars rule to an inferior item, it does 1 less damage and an encumbrance is 1 more. That's fine. It doesn't hurt.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry.
All right, superior. Did it.
All right.
Tractor. Oh, sorry, next one. Stefan, you want to take that one since you live on a farm? No, just kidding.
Tractor, yes. The tractor being, the John Deere thing.
Excuse me.
So, in this one, very much more common in sci-fi settings. Tractor. It's a passive ability. Instead of firing searing beams of laser or crackling ion discharges, the weapon fires a relatively harmless electromagnetic beam that ensnares and holds it fast in space. So like all weapons, they're fired at their target using the appropriate skill and all modifiers for range and so forth. And once it's hit, the target may not move unless its pilot makes a successful piloting check against a difficulty equal to the tractor beam rating. So you want that rating to be really high.
Yep.
So I imagine, the Death Star had probably a rating of 5 versus,
There you go.
And then if the target is an individual character, the character is immobilized while the beam is active.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. Weapons with attractive quality are only going to show up, in sci-fi settings most likely.
All right, Tony, take us out with the next 2, buddy.
Okay. We have 2 more passive abilities. The second to last one is unwieldy, which is the converse of cumbersome. Unwieldy is a weapon that can be particularly awkward to use for those without impressive dexterity and hand-eye coordination. To wield an unwieldy weapon properly, the character needs an agility characteristic equal to or greater than the weapon's unwieldy rating. And for each point of agility by which the character is deficient, you must increase the difficulty of all checks made while using the weapon by 1. Simple.
There we go.
All right, and then the last one is vicious. One of my favorites. It's also passive. And when an attack with this weapon results in a critical injury or hit, the character adds 10 times the vicious rating to the critical roll. So, with a vicious of 3, for example, you would add plus 30 to the resulting critical injury hit result.
Nice.
And vicious 3, and then triggering your crit multiple times. That's how you kill a guy.
That's how you kill an ancient dragon.
That's how you
kill Zach did.
That's how you one-shot my ancient dragon.
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
You sunk my battleship.
That is all of the existing qualities. Now, we might have some that pop up later that are setting specific.
House rules.
We'll see some on the road. And, GMs, if there's something that you've come up with out there, a weapon quality, like Stefan did, an item quality, shoot it to us in an email. We'll read it.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So last thing we cover when we cover weapons really is their or items is their maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of goes along with that Sunder quality, right? Where we're talking about, we're damaging items and such. There are on page 89, table I-5-4, repairing gear. There are the levels of damage: minor, moderate, and major. And there's a difficulty associated with repairing the gear when they're at that level. And then there's the penalties that you would ensue when using them. So if you're wielding an item and it's got a major damage to it, it's unusable. Because, if you have a sword and it's bent 90 degrees, you can't use it. It's toast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that's one of the things they also mentioned at the top of this paragraph, just under item maintenance. You know, you can use some of those despairs to indicate that, you know, the weapon is
misfired,
damaged somehow, whether it's the weapon or a shield or I was like, no, it's damaged, so it's not as effective at what it's supposed to do.
That's a great way to use despair. And I've had players roll 2 despairs in a single roll.
Yeah.
Nothing scares them more than taking that piece of equipment. And it's perfectly within the guidelines of the rules. You roll 2 despairs. It goes from being perfectly fine to being completely destroyed.
Well, exactly. And it doesn't have to be a weapon. It could be lockpicks, wrenches, you know, hydro spanners.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And so, did you cover the costs?
I did not. I was just saying that it costs. There's a difficulty, but I did not mention the costs.
All right. So, and the cost of those repairs are equal to the percentage of the item's base cost. It's going to be 25% for minor repairs, 50% for moderate repairs, and 100% for a major work. You're basically rebuilding it from the ground up.
Pretty much.
Reduce the total by 10% for each advantage received on the repair check if your character is doing the work themselves.
Yeah, and you would use a mechanic skill in, like, you know, on low-tech weapons or items and whatever. You'd probably you could use like a crafting check, you know, on stuff too.
Maybe computers, if you're putting your computer back together.
And then
sure.
the time involved repairing an item requires adequate time and tools, generally 1 to 2 hours per difficulty level. So if you're at minor repairs, it's 1 to 2 hours, and you should allow the characters to reduce that by the amount of cumulative extra successes they rolled.
Right.
They could speed it up if they want to. If they want to try and repair something in quicker time, but but increase the difficulty by 1. For the you know, if you want to repair your item in an hour instead of 2, you know, it'll be if you look down at it would normally be an easy check for a minor repair. It'll be an average check if you want to do it in an hour.
There you go.
So yeah,
because you're rushing it.
Yep. All right. Well, that's cool.
We kind of covered. I wanted to cover tracking ammo comment here, but we kind of did cover it earlier.
That's true.
Ran across limited ammo. All it says in the sidebar really is that this is a narrative-driven system. It is ammo is narrative-driven. Don't keep track of it unless you really, really want to. The only setting I would be a post-apocalyptic setting.
Yep, where ammo is. Where ammo is a resource. And, you know, I may even do it in like a Western. If you do it in a Western, you know, because ammo was a currency back then too, you know, traded bullets for shots.
Yeah, especially if you're out wandering about in the savannas, you know, between cities, you know, you're between Tombstone and Dry Gulch. Like, I only have a couple of bullets left and surrounded by Native Americans.
Yeah. Alrighty then. So
that pretty much covers the equipment, except for I wanted to cover one thing that Chris and I talk a lot about. We've used it in many of our advantageous threats, and that is the little rule that is on page 93 for gear. It is called the right tool for the job.
Nice.
Besides their characteristics, most pieces of gear have just one rule. It's a rule we like to call the right tool for the job. The rule is this. Due to the narrative-driven nature of our game, not every piece of equipment grants a unique rule or a unique bonus to gameplay mechanics. Instead, most pieces of gear assist your character in performing tasks they might not be able to accomplish without them, or be able to accomplish a task easier. So, a pair of binoculars will allow your character to spot foes from long away, for example. A cell phone allows you to communicate over long distances, and a camp stove lets your character cook food in the wilderness. In these cases, your character's equipment makes the task possible. And gear doesn't grant any additional bonus to the rules. It just lets your character do it. So that's part of the right tools for the job. But the other part is, at other times, a piece of gear helps your character do something better. For example, a compass may not be vital to successfully following a trail through the woods. However, it can provide helpful in starting it can provide helpful and useful. Likewise, a propane lantern would be helpful in starting a larger fire since it already has a fuel source and igniter. Whenever character uses a piece of gear to aid in a task that the character could still normally perform without an equipment, you and the GM can agree to add a boost die. Here's where Stefan comes in. He begs for these all the time.
Yep, I'm going to have to start thinking about this again. I'm like, all right, Stefan,
a crowbar.
you do
a crowbar
without it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
you have a crowbar.
Hey.
A crowbar is a nice lever that'll pry something open. Boost die there.
Hang on a second. Would you be able to pry that door open without a crowbar?
You might, but you much more
yes or no, Stefan? Yes or no, buddy? Come on.
Yes, I can.
So therefore, the boost die does apply. If
no,
you
it
have
doesn't.
The crowbar.
I'm going to surmise that you can't pry a door open without a crowbar. Therefore, you're using the right tool for the job, motherfucker. You don't get a boost. No.
I can always ask for the boost die. Doesn't mean I get it.
Oh,
we just found Chris's Dick GM button.
We know you always. No, I'm just kidding around. But hey, another example would be climbing a cliff. Yeah. You can do it without a rope. But if you have climbing gear, it's easier.
Well,
then it's the right tool for the job, granting you a boost die on your check.
Well, that's it. And then the crowbar becomes a setback because it's way too heavy and it's not appropriate.
That's right. And your buddy's got it hooked on your back end and trying to pull you down while you're climbing. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and each one of these, for weapons, there are. If you look on page 91, table 5-5, you could see just an example of a weapons chart. Right, there's gonna be a name of the weapon. There's gonna be a skill associated with it that you would use, and then the damage, like we said, the +1 for the knife. Whenever you see a plus, you would always add your brawn. The crit rating is the number of advantage you need to trigger a crit. The range is, engaged, or in this case for the revolver, medium range or closer. There's going to be that encumbrance rating. You would add that if it's on your person, you would add that to your encumbrance. And one thing that we didn't mention, as far as encumbrance goes, is if you have multiple items that are like really small, that have an encumbrance of 0. Typically, if you got like 10 of them, right? Like if you have stim packs or whatever that are encumbrance 0, but if you have 10 of them, that'll be like an encumbrance of 1. Not necessarily a weight, but it's more of a bulk of all those things.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a limiting factor. If you left them all at 0 all the time, why won't? Well, I've got 72 things as the painkillers in my backpack, and they don't weigh anything.
That's right.
I've got shurikens. Shurikens are really light. I can carry 72 of them.
Yeah, exactly. and then everything's going to have a price. And then here's your rarity. That's where you would find the rarity of things. And then everything. Then these are the special. That would be all your item qualities. That's where the qualities that we just spent the last 8 hours on describing to all you guys and gals out there. That's where they would list the special qualities of things. Then if you go to page 92, table 5-6, you have an armor table. What do we got in there, Stefan?
So that, of course, the name of the armor, the type of armor. Then we've got defense, if it gives you a defense value or not. Not all of them do. A soak value as well, with a plus, which means it adds to your existing soak value based on your brawn.
Or any talents, maybe.
Or with talents as well. And encumbrance, how heavy it is, when it's not worn. That's the encumbrance.
Yes.
Not worn. So whenever it's worn, subtract 3 from that down to a minimum of 0.
Yep.
It's not going to give you more encumbrance if you wear it.
Yeah.
And then price, of course, and rarity.
I'm wearing anti-gravity armor. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Well, power
0
armor. Power armor would be a different thing, but that increases your brawn, basically, so allowing you to carry more anyway.
Exactly.
Now, I want to say something about the defense on armor, because it covers it in this paragraph.
Yeah.
The armor's defense adds setback dice equal to defense rating in the attacker's dice pool. This reflects the armor's ability to redirect damage or deflect damage from the wearer. The defense rating of an armor sets the user's defense at a certain value. It does not add to anything. So if you have, for instance, you have 2 pieces of armor that you're wearing that have a defense rating, and they each give you that defense rating, they don't stack. Mm-hmm. Only the higher one applies.
Right.
And then you may have abilities and talents that increase your defense rating, such as the defensive quality on a handheld weapon.
Yeah, a shield.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out, that it sets the value. So
right.
Yeah. Your armor typically does. Now, talents, there are talents out there that
increase it.
That increase it?
Yep.
Gotcha. Just like the qualities. So what else do we have here? We have gear.
And then gear's
the gear table. Yeah.
The gear table just, I mean, it lists the item. That's table 5.7. Lists the item, lists its encumbrance, lists its price, lists its rarity, and then any special rules involving that equipment. For instance, the painkiller on page 94. Those are going to be listed in its descriptive paragraph.
Yes.
So painkillers in this case there is a generic name or term they use for a consumable quick healing item. So in a fantasy setting, that would be healing potions. In a steampunk setting, those would be healing tonics. In a weird war setting, they may be first aid packs. In a modern day, they're painkillers. Science fiction, they're auto healers of some kind.
Or stim packs. Yeah.
Heard
them called
whatever you want to call them.
Right.
Either way, it's treated the same way. What it is, the first time it's applied, it'll heal 5 wounds, and then they have diminishing returns from there. So each time in a single day, if you're hit with painkillers 3 times, the first time it's going to heal 5 wounds, the second time it's going to heal 4 wounds, and then the third it would heal 3 wounds, and so on until you get to a 6th use where it does no further effect for you, and that's in a single day.
Yeah.
So
it is important to read all of the descriptions, even in weapons and armor as well. Because if you're looking at this backpack, last sentence, it increases that encumbrance by 4. So, Stefan, you can help me put that boulder in my backpack, and it just doesn't matter.
There you go. There you go.
Right?
Why are you carrying a big screen TV back there?
Or the plutonium.
The plutonium in the lead container, yes.
Yeah. And then in the rope, it says the only rule associated with it, that it's often the right tool for the job.
Oh, that's it. You needed to climb something. You needed to tie up a prisoner. Well, there you go.
There you go.
And then we get later in the book, we have some setting-specific items. I'm not going to get into all those, but you have like alchemical items. You'll have drugs. You'll have cybernetics, Gmods, weapon modifications, all those things. They are going to have a similar paragraph to. They're just considered gear. They're going to just have an item, an encumbrance, a price, and a rarity, and then all of their important stats are going to be in their descriptive paragraph.
That's it.
Yep. So, everybody out there, wake up!
Yeah. And if you want a comprehensive resource for all the equipment and all the qualities, instead of just going through the Genesis book, our good friend there, Drainsmith, he has a great PDF called the Equipment Encyclopedia. That includes all the gear from so far Realms of Tyranoth, Shadow of the Beanstalk, as well as the little bits of equipment in the core book. And like I said, adds all the weapon qualities, armor qualities, and the attachments.
Oh, jeez.
Very nice.
That's a totally other show. Attachments is another show.
Yep.
Indeed it is.
Yes. So, gentlemen, let's get on to our next... Are we done with the meat of this show?
Yeah.
This meat,
close the book of Genesis.
The meat of this show is about the size of that 32-ounce porterhouse that I ate a few years ago. Holy crap!
I thought for sure you were going to say you air fried. Thanks, Bob. All right. So, because our sandwich was so full of meat, we're not going to have any cheese in this episode. We are going to leave the setting the tone out of this show, and we're going to skip right on to your favorite segment and mine, Advantageous Threats.
All right, welcome to part 3 of the show. The part that is our favorite. It's also become my favorite as well. It's infectious, you know. The part we called Advantageous Threat, where we set up little scenarios, run through the dice pool mechanic, and the rest of us try to come up with reasons for setback and upgrades of difficulties. And then we educate the rolls.
Yes.
So, Tony, let's kick off with your advantageous threat.
All right. My character, Geyser Broadrock, an Earth Amalgam Artificer in Primordial Machina, is attempting a mid-car chase to conduct a speedy repair on his majorly damaged Buzz Cleaver, which is a steam-powered battle axe / artificer's implement. I included a picture for you guys in our show notes to what a Buzz Cleaver may look like.
Yep.
So Geyser here has this is a mechanics check, and it's majorly damaged, so that automatically sets my difficulty at 3 purple. Geyser has an intellect of 3 with 2 ranks in mechanics, meaning he's going to have a 2 yellow, 1 green pool with 3 purple dice for difficulty. What you got? What you got?
Oh, go ahead, Chris. You start.
Well,
It's in mid-car chase.
Yeah.
and it's majorly damaged,
Uh-huh.
which means it's unusable at this point.
Yup.
But it's in mid-chase, and you want to do it really quick, so you don't have 6 hours to do it.
Correct.
Sparks are flying, things are vibrating. That's not supposed to vibrate.
If you want to do it really fast, I'm going to say this might be a little more difficult. It's got to be more difficult. I think we're going to have to make. I think we're going to have to make a special case here because of the rule of cool, and the fact that you want to actually repair this thing quickly in the middle of a car chase. So I'm gonna maybe increase the difficulty by 1. Make it an extra purple, and then
Just by 1?
well, technically,
well, I would have auto upgrade one of them
you're gonna auto upgrade it
trying to instead.
because you want to do it so quick.
Yeah. Give the chance for that despair.
So an increase that is automatically upgraded. Got it.
Okay, that sounds good to me. That sounds good.
Yeah. I would also add maybe at least 1 setback because he's in mid-car chase. There's people firing probably at the vehicle. The vehicle's jostling all over the place.
Yeah, I'd give it a 2 setback for that.
There you go.
Very well then. Well, I did not build Geyser with the knack for it yet.
Ooh.
So, because he, but hey,
But maybe he has the right tool for the job, though.
He thinks he's right. He's got his toolbox laid out in the back seat.
That's right.
So he happens to have the right tools.
He's trying to bash the hell out of it.
So I'm going to throw in a blue die for my right tools for the job, and because this would be really cool to do in the back seat of a car rambling across the desert, I am totally upgrading my check by spending a player's story point.
There you go.
That sounds good to me. Now, is this in a car chase, as in like kind of on the ground, near the ground?
Yep, car chase in
I'm gonna flip a GM story point here because we might hit a rock, and your Buzz Cleaver might be going flying out of the car.
or might hit the driver.
You only live once.
You might put an axe in the back of the driver. That's right. The driver's not named Killzak, is it? Oh, Yuri, is it?
All right, so here goes my mechanics check. Bam! All right, first of all, no despair, bitches.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Those red dice are loaded.
So I only had a single net success. I had grand total of 4 successes, but I had 3 failures. And I had 3 advantage, but they are canceled by the 3 threat that I rolled. So no advantage. So it just ends up being a single success.
There we go.
So
you succeed.
I succeeded in repairing it one step.
One step.
So
it's moderately.
So now, but you can at least use it. It's just automatically increase the difficulty when using it.
So
because it's moderately.
So to narrate this as a player, I'm in the back seat. I got all my tools all strewn out all over the place, and the car's jostling around, and tools are going flying, and all of a sudden you hear as his Buzz Cleaver kicks off, and you hear woohoo from the back.
Nice. That's great.
All right. Awesome.
That is awesome.
Yes. All right, Chris.
You want me to go next? Okay, then. All right.
Let's follow up with you.
So, Bolo Sauce Soul is my halfling cook / herbal healer in some fantasy setting. And he has scavenged some herbs, some healing herbs, some rare herbs from the woods that he would like to sell at a trading post out somewhere. So what I did is I figured a comparable rarity from Realms of Tiernoth. I picked Herbs of Healing. I think the rarity gives it a hard difficulty. I think the rarity was either 5 or 6.
Yeah, they're probably some kind of red and white mushroom.
Yeah, there it is. So it starts off so it's going to be a negotiation check because I want to sell these. But since he's in a major trading hub, it'll be a -1 difficulty. So making an average check. So he's fairly charismatic, with a presence of 3. He's got a couple ranks in negotiation because, he needs to be able to sell his pies. So he built that up a little bit. So his base check is going to be 2 yellow, a green, versus 2 purples. His mother has brought him up right, he's got 2 ranks in the proper upbringing talent, which he can suffer 2 strain and add 2 advantage to the check, which I'm going to do.
Very nice.
And I've never thought of ever using proper upbringing, but this is perfect.
There we go.
In a social check. So, what do you guys think? How would you like to make this more difficult?
Well, I would say in this particular... You didn't say where exactly in Tiernoth.
No, it's not in Tiernoth. I was just using the herbs of Tiernoth, or the herbs of healing from Tiernoth as like a base. Because there aren't any halflings in Tiernoth.
There are not. That's what I was going to say. So you're kind of like this weird alien outsider. But
no, I was just
either way, I'm going to say that the halflings are not very common in this trade hub, and so therefore,
or maybe halflings are thought as like they're always trying to cheat you.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, could be.
Okay.
So that would be a good reason to put in a setback die.
Alrighty, we'll throw a setback die in there.
But I honestly don't see any other reason to increase the difficulty in any way, shape, or form. I think you've got it pretty well calculated.
Okay. Maybe there's a the Dwarven Mafia is running the rare herbs market. So maybe there's an upgrade there.
Dwarven Mafia.
Flip a story point because of something like that.
A bunch of wise beards, eh?
A bunch of wise beards, eh? You want to sell some herbs in our town? You got to come to us first.
Sounds great.
You little Ogato, you? Come on.
Yeah, that sounds like a great reason to flip a GM story point and
There you
upgrade.
go.
That's
All right.
what I thought.
Sounds good.
Sorry about that.
Don't lose your lungs.
No.
You need some of those healing herbs.
You
And
might want to keep some of those for yourself.
Yeah, I might want to. All right. Yep. And yeah, this is good. I'm good with that. I don't need this flip a story point, even though Bolo has never run into the Dwarven Mafia before. He don't know what the fuck to do. All right, here we go. Ooh, holy failure, Batman.
Oh.
But however, okay, so I have one failure.
Okay.
I get that, and I'm going to spend 2 strain and add 2 advantage. So I have 1 failure, 3 advantage, and a triumph.
Nice.
So, I'm going to say that I might not. So when it means I don't successfully sell something, I won't get the price for it, right? But why don't we do? Well, I could do something. You know what? Maybe with my advantage, I do a trade for the value. I don't get the cash monies for it. They allow me to maybe trade at like a half value or something. What do you think?
For some herb other herbs that they were trying to
I don't know.
to get rid of, and they can't. They don't could be.
That could be. So they have a abundance of the herbs required for bottled courage,
Okay.
which would be some sort of hops. And so they do a trade with you. So the herbs for bottled courage versus the herbs for healing potions.
For like healing potion. Sweet. And I think I would love to spend this triumph on an automatic upgrade with this Dwarven Mafia in the future.
Okay. Or another thing you could do, you could also throw in something like at the end. They're like, sorry, we really couldn't help you, but we'll throw this in, and you could get something for free if you really wanted to in that kind of situation.
Oh, that's a good idea
item.
too.
Yeah, a minor item.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
That's a good idea. All right.
Nice.
Well, there we go.
Excellent.
All right, come on, Stefan. What do you got for us, buddy?
All right. Now we switch to the world of Star Wars, where my character, Thar Boromir.
Never heard of him.
No, never heard of him. Goes by the name of Boromir. He's a Chiss Jedi Sentinel artisan. And he needs to acquire some rare isotope in order to complete his new ship component to upgrade the ship. Some kind of phase shield that will make it much more difficult for other ships to target the Nebula Dancer.
Ooh.
This is already a rarity 8 item, so 4 purple, daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a control substance, almost like military. So using the rarity table plus 2 rarity bumps it up to 10, meaning 5. Formidable.
Woo! Oh my.
There you go. But he's in the trading hub. He's like a place, he's on Null Hutta, where there's a lot of trade. Nar Shaddaa.
Oh shit! If you're there, dude, I'd reduce it by 2, maybe.
All right. Well, at least 1.
Right?
Oh yeah, back to 8. Go back to 8.
Back to 8. All right. So.
Because it's on because in Star Wars they actually have modifiers for it being on a major trade route and being a major trade center.
Ooh,
so it would actually be reduced by 2.
That's it. All right. So, and he's got some decent streetwise and a good presence. So 2 yellows and 2 greens.
Okay.
So there you go. So and he's made some contacts. He's been working on these different ships and helping out. So He knows who to ask, so I would maybe give him a boost die.
There it is.
There we go.
So you mean he has the right tool for the job?
That's it. He is the right tool for the job.
He is the right tool for the job. Gotcha.
So, what about any kind of difficulties?
This is during the height of the Empire?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So immediately, automatically, going to throw in a setback die for him being a Jedi Sentinel artisan.
Yeah. Of course, he doesn't advertise it, but still, you have to keep it hidden.
Yeah.
You got to keep it hidden.
It's on his mind.
Oh, yeah.
And because the Hutts have such a clamp down on these awesome ship components, we'll spend DM story point and upgrade that.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
one there, and instead of that. So we're looking at 3 purple, a red, a black, and a blue, and then 2 yellows, 2 greens.
Rainbow! Woohoo!
Rainbow. All right, Stefan.
Let's see what I've got with that. Ooh, a despair and a triumph.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to be
Right there.
advantageously threatening or triumphantly
Yes,
despaired.
Definitely. So we've got a couple of threats there, canceled out by 2 advantages. A couple of failures. Let's see here. This is blank. So, no, unfortunately, I got two failures and 1 success. And actually, no, wait a minute. The triumph does count as a success.
The
Yes,
despair
it do.
counts as a failure.
But it's yeah, and that's the despair is a failure. So yeah, so I'm left with 1 failure, and 1 advantage, and a triumph, and a despair. A little bit of everything, almost.
Alrighty then.
Woof.
So he does he does not find the isotope that he's wanting,
Nope.
but with the at least 1 advantage that's left over, he might get a clue to someone who might be able to point him in the right direction.
Okay.
Sure. Sure. Yep. In fact, you meet a trader who's dealt with a guy who was on coming out of Coruscant.
Yeah. So
and he was selling it on the black market there underneath Imperial nose.
right. So my triumph might say that it's not sold yet, and I have still a chance to get to the guy that I may have even dealt with in the past before, so he knows me. A little bit of trust there already.
Okay.
The problem is, dun dun dun, your despair is that the gentleman is doing his sail under the nose on the same space station just off Coruscant, where a Inquisitor is known to have hunted Force users.
Aha. So there you go. So I'll have to be extra careful.
The Inquisitor is 1 step behind you now, Stefan.
There you go. Awesome.
Welcome back to the show, Stefan.
That was awesome. A nice variety of things happening, and after educating them.
Yeah, and you still continued to roll a failed check with despair triumph.
But still, awesome.
Yeah.
It's never a dull moment.
Yep.
No,
Shall we call it a day?
Let's call it a
I
day.
think we could call it a day, or an evening, or a morning.
All right, everybody, that's our show for tonight. I would love to give a shout out to a new podcast called Macho Men in Tights, hosted by Uncle J. Raz, Carlin Kendrick, and Matt Stark. It's a podcast about supers, RPGs, and luchadors. They had their premiere episode on March 25th, 2019. And you can find them on Podbean, machomenandtights.podbean.com. I'll put the link in the show notes there. Yeah.
Yeah, go listen to them. Finally, a podcast about superheroes.
Yes, exactly. And Carlin wearing his frickin' luchador mask while we played Star Wars last time. That was hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fact that you got Matt, Carlin, and Jay. They have great chemistry talking together, and you can tell they all have a love for supers. And it's great to see those guys putting together a show on the Nerds International Network. So
3 different personalities, so just like us.
Yes, that's great.
Good things come in threes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got anything you want to remind us of, Stefan? Because I'm blonde and I forget shit.
Yeah,
I don't. Just the news that we mentioned earlier. World of Android, available on Drive-Thru-RPG. So go and get it if you want more fluff for your Shadow of the Beanstalk campaign.
Alrighty then. Well, contact info. You can contact us via email at findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me or Stefan. He's now an admin on the Facebook page. You can get a hold of Nerds International and Finding the Narrative on MeWe. And we are now on Twitter at @FTN_Genesis.
Nice.
And Stefan monitors that like a hawk.
Yes, so no spamming.
So tell your friends to listen to us on Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and Google Play. And yeah, that's our show. This is Tony saying keep rolling them bones.
And this is Stefan saying don't forget to ask for those boost dice.
And this is Chris telling you to remember the rule of cool and just have fun, everybody. Good night.
Au revoir.
Bye. Hey?
Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned in this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. Copyright 2019, all rights reserved.